Cryptocurrency and Bitcoin in particular usually follows the S&P 500 or the general market as a whole, and then usually other cryptocurrencies will follow Bitcoin. So for example, if you see the S&P 500 having a great year and it's up 25%, a lot of times Bitcoin will have a big time year as well. But the thing that also goes with that is if the market's having a bad year, a lot of times there'll be a big sell-off with crypto.
So really, you probably need to be able to handle some risk with this cryptocurrency. Can you tell us a little bit about the five cryptos that are actually in this reserve?
Yeah, and going from memory, you've got Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, you've got Solana, and then you've got US dollar Tether, I believe. It's one of those stable coins, which I'm not really sure why it's going in there. I think Trump was kind of just throwing stuff to the wall. He was looking at some of the most popular cryptocurrencies, and he said those five would go into this crypto reserve in the U.S. But a lot of pushback came when people found out that Ripple was going in there, even Solana, because a lot of the crypto community is kind of snobbish. But that's kind of the way that they look at a lot of cryptocurrencies that aren't Bitcoin. And so you've got people like Michael Saylor that know Trump, and they went in and they said, hey, this needs to be a Bitcoin reserve primarily. There will still be some other currencies that go into it, but it's primarily going to be a Bitcoin reserve.
So Grayson, probably the million-dollar question is that, do you believe that crypto somewhere in the near future is going to replace the greenback, the dollar? I know I get that question a lot, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers are asking that question.
It's very unlikely that that ends up happening. I've used the analogy before that cryptocurrency and Bitcoin are a lot like bottled water. Some people prefer it. A lot of people use it. It might be a safer alternative if something ever happens that's really bad, but it's an alternative to tap water, and that tap water would be representative of fiat currency in our greenback. And so I don't foresee Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency really taking over here in the U.S. unless things get really, really bad. But that's unlikely to happen soon, but we'll see what ends up happening.
Why do you think, or what do you think would happen which would cause an individual to use Bitcoin to buy a cheeseburger? You know, you have a dollar bill and it fluctuates just a little bit up and down compared to other currencies, but nothing like Bitcoin that goes from $1 up to $84,000. Somebody would really have to almost be a fool to spend Bitcoin on a cheeseburger unless they really thought the bottom was going to go out.
I believe that the price of Bitcoin would have to stable out a certain bit. You know, if Bitcoin's $100,000 this year and you're expecting it to be worth $200,000 next year, exactly like what you're saying, it wouldn't make any sense to spend it now. And so for it to be used as a medium of exchange, it would probably have to have something like a price stabilization. It would get up so high that it just kind of floats, and it's regular with the way that it fluctuates against other currencies, or there's no other option. It would be like going and using a gold coin to buy something, and it's fluctuating in value every other day.
Don't you think that would be kind of defeating its original purpose, where it's not to be manipulated? So if you end up going in and setting up, okay, it can't go over this or go down below that, don't you think that would be kind of going against what the original thought was with Bitcoin?
Certainly, and yeah, there's no way that you could peg it to the dollar, but you could peg your dollar to it. But yeah, it's not something that you can manipulate like that, but I'll say it like this. Right now, the value of it is largely driven by demand, and there's still a lot of adoption that has to come. So like I saw something online today that said that Bitcoin's only been 2 to 3% adopted around the world, and you're seeing a lot of money coming in through ETFs and those being introduced last year in 2024. And so there are a lot of people that are still getting into it. And since it does have a limited supply, that means that for every person that's interested in buying more, that means that the price is going to continue to go up with it. And so there could come a day at some point when almost everybody's using it, and that would kind of stabilize the price a little bit. I mean, it would still increase in comparison to a fiat currency, But yeah, it wouldn't grow quite as much. It would be like a growth company that takes off a lot when it's still young and growing, but it would eventually stabilize and become a dividend yielding type of investment.
Grayson, back several years ago, I went in and was looking at different cryptocurrencies, and just several years ago, there was slightly over 8,000 cryptos, and today there's over 20,000. So I think what Trump has done with these five that goes in this reserve is kind of putting his stamp of approval that these are here to stay and some of these others may or may not be. What do you think about that?
I think that it's an interesting approach. I don't think that he knows a whole lot about crypto, though, if I'm being honest with you, because if you look at a cryptocurrency like Ripple, it's not really the same as something like Bitcoin or Ethereum, where they're wanting to be decentralized. What you look at with Ripple is it's actually owned by that company, Ripple, and the ticker of it is XRP. And basically what they do is they work with countries and central banks on developing central bank digital currencies, which is pretty much the antithesis of cryptocurrency, which is not having to deal with banks and decentralization. So that's kind of one of the things that's a little bit of a question mark about what's going into this crypto reserve. I'm not sure he knows a whole lot about crypto. But yeah, these are five of the biggest cryptocurrencies. If you look at the market cap, you'll see Cardano up there. You'll see Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tether, and Solana as well.
Grayson, being a Christian, I hear a lot of Christians say, this is really opening the door for the end time. I believe we're living in the last days, and a lot of people say, well, we're in the last hours, and they believe that the Antichrist, where it says in Revelation that a person might not be able to buy or sell unless they have the mark of the beast. Some people believe that the Antichrist will be able to control currencies and the economy based on crypto-type currencies. So if you do something they don't like, they could cut you off, and where they can actually control who buys or sells. So do you think this is possibly these five reserves are leading to the mark of the beast?
No, and I'll back that up. In short, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, a lot of these cryptocurrencies that were really built to go against the centralized financial industry, they're the antithesis. They're the opposite of what a centralized currency would be. So like with the US dollar right now, you've got the greenback, and you can get cash out of the ATM and you can go transact that basically without anybody looking over your shoulder and knowing that you're going to the grocery store and buying stamps with it. Bitcoin is a lot like that too. Now there are ways that you can look on the blockchain and see different transactions, but it's pseudo-anonymous. So like if I went to the store and I used some Bitcoin to buy something, somebody would have to know my wallet address to know whether it was me that bought it. I ask your pardon because that's getting a little bit technical. But to get back to the point, there are central bank digital currencies, and like Ripple is the one that I'm talking about, or that we've been discussing in the video, that is kind of like that. It would give a company, it would give a government the ability to look and see how much you have in your account. They'd be able to freeze it and basically take it away from you if they wanted to. That's the thing that you have to watch out for. That's the thing that would be like the mark of the beast. You have to have the certain social credit score to be able to go to the store and buy food this week to use our central bank digital currency. That's the thing that you have to look out for. Bitcoin, Ethereum, they can't be manipulated in that way. They weren't set up to have a centralized governing force over them, and it wouldn't be possible to do that. That's why a lot of politicians don't like it so much.
Grayson, if you're a novice and you're hearing about cryptocurrency, you realize it's here to stay, but you don't know which one's good or which one's bad. What is the quickest and the easiest way to make that determination?
So the biggest thing about cryptocurrencies is their utility, and that's what all the crypto people will tell you. You got to look at utility. But then you look at some of these cryptocurrencies that they claim that they've got all this use, and you actually look down into the nitty gritty, and an everyday person isn't going to use that at all. So really the biggest thing is you've got to look at these cryptocurrencies that people are buying because they have value, that people are buying because they have a potential use, and not just ones that are speculative like a lot of the ones that you've got in that 20,000 pile of all of them that are just based on trying to get rich quick and make a lot of money, because there is a lot of that. If you're actually wanting to make money, I'd recommend that you stay away from those for the most part.
If you have any questions concerning crypto, Grayson Shaw with Christian Values Investing is a great one to call. We'll put his number down at the bottom, or his email, that you could call him or send him an email if you have any questions. But until then, may God richly bless you.